joint committee that the matter was referred to is that joint committee that is now reporting to the House. In that case, it will be referred to as the joint committee, not a joint committee. So she is right. For both 1 Roman 1, that is D Roman 1, and D Roman 2. The C Roman, the paragraph below C Roman 4, it will be a joint committee. So she got it right. Thanks so much, my daughter, for being learned. Page 12. Hey, so many corrections on page 12. I already have about. Let me start with the lady, the Honorable Lady, Honorable Helen Intoso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Page 12. Item number 10A. By the Honorable Majority Chief Whip, Mr. Frank Anodampre, of behalf of the Honorable Member of Akimswed. I think should be on behalf.
On behalf. You are right.
Please. Then, Mr. Speaker, item number C. Promotion of proper human social rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021. And it's mentioned, Honorable Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, Mr. Samuel Nati George. I don't know whether his name has been put there on behalf of the 7 others. I expected that all the names of the 8 people who signed the bill, his names should appear. Because yesterday, Second Deputy Speaker did mention all the 8, all the names. So I expect that all the names should appear instead of one person. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Table Office. Have you taken note of the issue she has raised? Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm grateful. The last paragraph under item number 9, I would have thought that the proper rendition should be concluding comments on the statement deferred till Tuesday, 3rd August 2021, or conclusion of comments on the statement deferred, but not what is here as concluding of comments. It's not correct. So either conclusion of comments or concluding comments on the statement deferred to Tuesday, 3rd August 2021.
Is concluding comments on the statement deferred till Tuesday, 3rd August 2021. Concluding comments. Yes, please. Honorable Odo.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I think the preferable rendition of that will be conclusion of comments. Rather than concluding comments. Concluding comments may be.
Now, if you say conclusion of comments, and then you use deferred. No.
It may not be just one comment from a specified person. It may be
yes, that's why
comments will be coming from either side.
Yes, that's why it's concluding comments.
It's okay. You can leave it.
On the statement deferred.
Yeah, deferred.
I will say conclusion of comments deferred. Well, there's no English master here, so both are right. And so we'll take either of them. Page 13. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the 39th sitting of the second meeting of the first section held on Monday, 2nd August 2021, as corrected, are adopted as the true records of proceedings. I don't have any copy of official reports, and so we'll move on to, unless otherwise requested by leadership, we'll move on to item 6, urgent questions. I don't know why we have so many urgent questions. So many urgent questions. Usually, urgent questions are not many. Today, we have A to F, a total of 6 urgent questions. Because of the urgency, the answers are usually not published, and the votes on the standing order paper, sorry. And so we'll start with 6A, who stands in the name of, yes, Majority Leader.
Speaker, information available to me is that the Minister is having to attend a very crucial meeting, and so he's not available. And he has applied for us to reschedule him for Thursday. So, Speaker, if that will meet your favor and acceptance, I want to urge that we move to item number 10, to deal with the statement on the mid-year fiscal policy review and budget statement and economic policy, and to allow the minority leader to begin item 10. I'm reading page 1.
Majority Leader, 6F, urgent question 6F, who stands in the name of the Minority Leader, is to the Minister for Transport. The others are to the Minister for Food and Agriculture, and your submission is to that effect, which I believe the honorable members will be willing to hold on their fire until Thursday to ask the question. But what about 6F, which is to the Minister for Transport?
Speaker, we can do that after the budget, because for same minister, there are 3 other ordinary questions. So now he has 4 questions to answer. 3 ordinary questions, numbered 233, 234, and 235. So he has 4 questions to answer. So I would plead that we go to item listed as 10 on page 1. And I think on the main order paper, on page 6, is listed as item 11. So we could deal with that one. And then when we finish, we will climb.
Minority Leader, any reaction?
Madam Speaker, we can vary the order of business to bring conclusion to the mid-year review of the budget with the understanding and assurance that the Minister for Transport will be here afterwards to respond to my urgent question and the other questions standing in the name of our colleagues. That understanding is workable, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, in view of the submissions from leadership, I will vary the order of business for today in accordance with our standing order 53-2. So the order of business is varied accordingly. We will go to item 11 to conclude the comments on the statement that was made by the Minister responsible for Finance on the mid-year fiscal policy review of the budget statement and economic policy of the Government of Ghana for the 2021 financial year. And we'll do so by listening to the Minority Leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu. I hope the agreement is that each leader will take 30 minutes. 1 hour. Each leader will take 1 hour. And so we will take 2 hours. We don't have the leisure of time, because I earlier mentioned to you we have an important guest today to receive. So I am prepared to up it to 35 minutes each. 35 minutes each. Yes, leaders, you want 40 minutes?
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, upon consultation with the minority leader, he indicated to me yesterday that he wants to do 40 minutes. And I think we can allow him to do that. So let him start. Plus or minus 5 minutes.
So 40 minutes each.
Plus or minus 5 minutes.
So we start in 12:24. Please, Honorable Haruna Idrisu may start now.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to what has now become a statement and not a motion on the mid-year fiscal policy review of the 2021 budget and economic policy, and to thank the Honorable Minister of Finance at least for his fidelity to the law, Article 179 of the Constitution and Section 28 of the Public Financial Management Act. But Mr. Speaker, in doing so, let me refer you to page 96, Appendix 3C, Economic Classification of Central Government Expenditure. And Mr. Speaker, you would note that compensation of employees have been increased from 30,313,597,722 to 31,490,824,819 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, in the same page, use of goods and services have also increased from 5.9 billion, able to capture the appropriate figures, to 8.5 billion. Mr. Speaker, still in the same page, when you come to provision of health infrastructure, 1.4 billion is now 779 million, less 697 million. And Mr. Speaker, we are treating this as a statement. So it means that the Honorable Minister of Finance, in my view, is using a statement to amend the Appropriation Act referenced what was approved by appropriation for compensation of employees, which was 30 billion, and 1 billion more have been added on. How we are to treat it, I will go with your guidance on the matter. But I do not think that any Minister of Finance should be given a mandate to use a statement to amend the Appropriation Act, even though I concede that he is still within appropriation. Then, Mr. Speaker, I raised a fundamental question. In increasing goods and services from 5.9 billion to 8.5 billion, where is the 3 billion going? Which ministry, which department, to do what? That is why Parliament exercises oversight. Mr. Speaker, I can go on. If you go to the same figure, as I said, provision of health infrastructure, you said Agenda 111. You allocated 1.4 billion. He has reduced it by 779 million by a statement. I do not find that acceptable. But Mr. Speaker, we are told that our economy is doing very well, and we are told that the economy is growing very well. Mr. Speaker, most often than not, the NDC and its administration under Professor Mills and President John Dramani Mahama are castigated, but at least for the record, the highest growth of the Ghanaian economy occurred in 2011 at 14.4%. Record can never be contested until the economy does better. Inflation, not single digit, laps into double digit, then laps back to single digit, then you say celebrate me for keeping inflation at single digit. Under President Mills, consistently for 2 years, inflation was at single digit. Mr. Speaker, key highlights on the real sector, monetary developments and the external accounts suggest that the economic indicators for these key sectors perform better. And Mr. Speaker, I repeat, key highlights on the real sector gives me an indication that the economic indicators for the key sectors performed better during the COVID-19 pandemic period to June 2020 than the same period in 2021. Paragraph 78, Table 2, the quarterly year-on-year GDP percentage, shows that while overall GDP grew by 7% and non-oil GDP by 7.9%, that of the first quarter of 2021 only grew by 3.1%. So COVID, you did not perform well, you can blame COVID. I say paragraph 78, table 2 of the mid-year budget statement. For overall GDP at 4.6%. Paragraph 80, Mr. Speaker, shows clearly that agriculture, services and industry all performed better in the COVID period to June 2020 than the COVID period to June 2021. I'm doing a half-year comparison of the data for our purposes. So, Mr. Speaker, agriculture in the first 2 quarters of 2020 grew at 10.2%. In 2021, it's at 4.3%. The services sector grew at 12.3%. First quarter of COVID year 2020, it is now 1.3%. Industry 1.4%, it is now 1.3%. Growth in the above sectors have declined, and that remains a fact of our national economy. Then, Mr. Speaker, we are dealing with even discrepancies as to what data the Minister of Finance submits to Parliament, this August House, and what data he gives to the Bretton Woods institutions of IMF and others, because the fiscal deficit in the west of the IMF and the World Bank is 15.3%, and not what he is reporting to this August House. He needs to come and explain the discrepancies in this particular position of his budget statement. Mr. Speaker, same Minister for Finance, when he came here to review the budget for the first time, said that he was launching on Ghana into what he called Obatampa. And Mr. Speaker, he said, and I quote, "The President's plan for the next 3.5 years, an unprecedented 100 billion Ghana cash, Where is it, Mr. Speaker? And he added in 2020 when he appeared before us that he will establish 2 billion guarantee facility to support all sectors of businesses and job retention. We want to find out where the 2 billion guarantee facility was established, who has benefited from it, if it was not just meant to deceive the Ghanaian public. He said, Mr. Speaker, that a 100 million fund for labor and faith-based organizations for retaining and skills development will be established. He further said he would increase the CAP-based program by 150 million to, among others, facilitate credit of 50 million to support the creative arts. 2020 Media Review, page 100, paragraph 478. Honorable Ken Oforiatta, what has happened to your Batampa case? If you cared, this is what you pledged to do. We are interested in knowing what your performance have been. Mr. Speaker, one of the major flagships of government has been planting for food and jobs. Fertilizer supplies have not been paid for. Farmers are yearning and looking for support by way of fertilizer, which is seasonal. I will urge on the Minister for Finance to work in harmony with his colleague, the Minister for Agriculture, and make available to fertilizer suppliers so that these products are made available to poor Ghanaian farmers. At least extend your Obatampa care to Ghanaian farmers by being sincere in paying for what have been procured in the name of fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, this is what he had to say. He said the ministry procured and distributed 4,120,520 metric tons of fertilizer to farmers that have not been paid for. So, Mr. Speaker, you don't want to wait until it's over. And what will you be supplying the fertilizer for? They should use it and go and throw to dry weather. That clearly will be causing some loss to the state if you don't know when you should make fertilizer available to poor farmers. Then, Mr. Speaker, we come to almighty COVID. Now, this administration is very good at it. When the economy is not doing well, blame COVID. When it is doing well, profit from COVID, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it's only Ghana which has spent a whopping 21 billion on COVID, yet less than 5% of its population is vaccinated. Shameful statistics. Where did the money go? You took money in the name of COVID, whether World Bank Rapid Credit Facility or money from the Stabilization Fund or other loans that you have taken. You have spent over 20 billion, yet only 405,000 Ghanaians can boast that they have been vaccinated fully. What did you do with the money? Yet in many other regions of Ghana, including 6 regions, you have not even established isolation and treatment centers. They have no emergencies. There is no oxygen available to them. What do you do with 21 billion? Yet the population cannot be vaccinated. Mr. Speaker, when COVID hit, the strategy medically to contain the public health epidemic was to test, isolate, and treat. Now the world, whether the United Kingdom or United States of America, have learned their lessons. And the lesson is that a vaccinated population is less likely to be prone to COVID infections. So why do you take 21 billion Ghana cedis, and yet you cannot even boast of 1.5 million Ghanaians having access to the vaccine, and yet you say you are doing well? Mr. Speaker, we cannot heal them and we cannot praise them. We know that COVID have had a debilitating impact on the economy. No doubt about it. Mr. Speaker, now let me come back to the theory of compensation, and with respect, Mr. Speaker, let me refer you to paragraph 199 of the budget statement, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, it reads, Mr. Speaker, media review, page 37, government employers and organized labor for the first time, concluded negotiations on the national daily minimum wage and public sector base pay for 2 consecutive years, 2021 and 2022, early this year. Mr. Speaker, that means that the Minister for Finance is adding an additional 1 billion to the compensation budget of the state. That is why I said he is cleverly using a statement to correct or amend the Appropriation Act, which gave him only 30 billion. Now he's asking for 31 billion. But Mr. Speaker, what that means is that the workers of Ghana, the public sector workers of Ghana, can have no smiles into 2022. When you have inflation at 8 or 9%, the appropriate thing to do of a meaningful wage negotiation is to take the wage increases not above inflation. So if you say inflation is 9 or 8%, then increase your wages by just 8 or 9%. That is the best practice, and that has been the practice. To say 4%, and Mr. Speaker, is a recipe for industrial conflict. It's a recipe for industrial strikes. No surprise, the University Teachers Association of Ghana have already embarked on an industrial action, asking for improvement in their conditions of service. Many may follow. It may be teachers, it may be nurses, and I think that, Mr. Speaker, while this is the first time and they want to say we should commend them, it is not realistic. And going into the future, we should be ready to bear the consequences of an unstable labor environment, which is likely to be characterized by protest and strike action, which ultimately will affect productivity of our country. Mr. Speaker, now they say we should hail them because they are doing well on the performance of the economy and on the matter of borrowing. Mr. Speaker, it is their argument. Today, the national debt is standing at some 340 billion. In their estimation, 77% of GDP. In the estimation of the IMF, it is near 80.3% of GDP, pushing Ghana into a debt distressed country and the risk of it. Mr. Speaker, so 334 billion as of June 2021. Under President Mahama, you said responsible borrowing. Where is your responsible borrowing? Where you borrowed for COVID and you can account for a sizable population of the country benefiting from COVID vaccines? What did you do with the money? PPEs? Not to give people a job? And Mr. Speaker, I have with me here debt as a percentage of GDP. 2016, it was 56.8%, 2017, 55.5%, 2018, 57.6%, 2019, 62.4%, 2020, under Nana Addo Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the superior managers of the economy, 76.1%. Now into 2021, 77.1%, debt as a percentage of GDP. Mr. Speaker, what that simply means is that we are spending more on interest payment. And for this year alone, the minister initially budgeted 35 billion to service debt. Again, when you come to page 96, he has cleverly reduced it, stating that we will pay some 28 billion in servicing debt. But whatever it is, Mr. Speaker, the statistics will speak for itself. In 2016, interest payment under John Dramani Mahama and the NDC was 21.06%. Today, under Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, 2017, 25.8%. 2018, 26.18%, 2019, 28.21%, 2020, 25%, and 2021, 30.2%. Interest payments as a percentage of GDP. Yet they say, hail us as superior managers of the economy. Mr. Speaker, in the NDC, we didn't use the term parallel numbers or reporting lightly. No, in our engagement with the IMF and Parliament, we gave adequate statistics. Simple question is, the budget deficit of 11%, even that is at least twice what is permissible under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. If it was to be 15%, then it's 3 times more what is acceptable under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Go back to 2020, go back to 2016 under NDC and John Dramani Mahama, it was 6.3%. That you said was not good enough and that you were better and superior managers of the economy. You have moved away from 6.3% to 11% and to the IMF at 14%. And Mr. Speaker, he came saying that he has not come to Parliament to ask for more money. As I indicated to him, you don't drink water from an empty calabash. When your revenue is not doing well, it is not doing well. The amount of revenue under the NDC was around 28% of GDP. It has slided down to about 20% of GDP. And Mr. Speaker, we should worry. Mr. Speaker, ultimately what the Ghanaian people are asking, the economy is doing well, single-digit inflation, planting for food and jobs, free senior high school. Has it ended the suffering you promised in your manifesto of 2016? You said you will stop the suffering of workers. You will stop the suffering of farmers. You will stop the suffering of teachers. They are still suffering and probably even living under more hardship than they were before. On the ease of doing business, where do we stand as a country? And Mr. Speaker, again, let me establish an IMF table that I have come across, and revenue 2019 was about 14.3%, 2020 12.9%, 2021 14.9%. And Mr. Speaker, the deficit overall, as I've stated, in 2019 was 7.5% overall balance, 15.3% in 2020, and the IMF projects 14% into the year end. So your trajectory as to what will happen tomorrow is neither here nor there. Mr. Speaker, we need to guarantee food security in our country. We need not just to make fertilizer available, but to support farmers. We are still spending over $300 million on rice imports. And as the Deputy Ranking for Agriculture observed, where is the maize, which is a product of planting for food and jobs? Where is the maize? And Mr. Speaker, may I refer you to page 85 of the budget statement, and probably for someone to explain to me how the minister could argue that the cocoa sector could be contributing in their estimation. And Mr. Speaker, I come to page 85, when you see the appendix 1A, real GDP growth, crops, cocoa. Mr. Speaker, in 2020, they themselves projected that the cocoa sector will do, 2019 was 5.4%. So 2020, 1.9%. And Mr. Speaker, they are saying that because cocoa is likely to increase to 1 million tons, its contribution to GDP is likely to be 15.5%. I beg to strongly disagree. The Auditor General have given us basis to be concerned that the cocoa board is underperforming and indeed are negative in their books in the last 3 years, 2019, 2020, 2021. At best, even if you take a nominal GDP of 433 billion, you should be realistic enough to say that if we are able to achieve 1 million tons, the cocoa sector is likely to contribute 10% to overall GDP and not 15.5%. That is not realistic. And that is significant in terms of getting some other numbers. Mr. Speaker, again, Agenda 111, we want to see an achievement to the President's desire to expand access to health care. And Mr. Speaker, the President in his statement, which was presented by the Honorable Minister of Finance, talks about what the President went to do in Bupe when he commissioned a hospital facility at Bupe. Mr. Speaker, let me say authoritatively, without fear of contradiction, that John Dramani Mahama secured funding and cuts off for those major hospitals at Bupe, Somanya, Weta, and Tolo. So if you go to commission it, you must recognize it and don't come and report to this page 5. Paragraph 32, this is what the minister had to say. The 85-bed Central Gwindia District Hospital, that is Bupe, is a John Mahama initiative. You can check the record, which was financed for Somanya, Tolang, in the Honorable Abeji's constituency, Veta. Then you go and come and tell Ghanaians that you are doing well with this economy. Mr. Speaker, let them come again. Then, Mr. Speaker, they are talking about assembling, and that 4 interchanges, Pokwasi, the first of its kind in West Africa. Go and follow the history and chronology of how Pokwasi happened. And sometimes it's just fair to acknowledge, consistent with Article 35(7) of the Constitution, that you are continuing an initiative of the previous administration. It's only constitutionally appropriate to be able to acknowledge that and do justice where you need to be able to do that. Mr. Speaker, we granted the Minister of Finance expenditure in advance of appropriation that was legitimate for us to do as a House. But I still strongly think that our fiscal deficit of 9.5% of GDP, we are not likely to stay within it because he has not disciplined his expenditure. He is still spending as if he is not in a COVID period. And Mr. Speaker, as I said, 2017, Cocoa Board, initially, they had no difficulty even raising money. Their contribution to the employment of our country, to the export earning of our country, remains significant. But Mr. Speaker, in 2017, they recorded a loss of 161.2 million Ghana cedis. In 2018, 78.4 million Ghana cedis. 2019, 320 million Ghana cedis. And Mr. Speaker, what is even more worrying, the more they can chew. They have awarded more road contracts equivalent to what the Ministry of Roads can award. Our simple question is that the core function and core mandate of Cocoa Board? And many of the sole source contract. A while ago in opposition, you didn't see anything meaningful and lawful about sole sourcing. You are reminded today that sole sourcing is lawful under the laws of Ghana. But sole sourcing does not give value for money. It denies competitiveness. But a large and a substantial portion of those contracts you've granted are all sole source. Principle, you don't have it in the morning and then lose it in the evening. You keep it at all times, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we are told that smuggling accounts for about 120 million of fertilizer. And even as we discuss the 450 metric tons, I insist, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Finance, we don't want to believe what we are hearing, must make available to the Minister for Agriculture his requirement to be able to service. A denial because somebody have manifested ambition somewhere, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, unemployment. In 2015, Mr. Speaker, I had the privilege to be Ghana's Minister for Employment, and I declared unemployment as a national security crisis. We will any day, anytime support the President to deal with the growing unemployment in our country. But realistic, when you say you are coming to create 1 million jobs, from which sectors of the economy? From which sectors of the economy? It's cheap to say 1 million jobs. The private sector, what has happened to your 1D, 1F? 1D1F. Mr. Speaker, it has become another greater Accra phenomenon. It is not in the Upper West region, it is not in the Upper East region, it is not in Northern region. Irrigation development has suffered in the subsequent area. Nasia, on your way to Wale. Mr. Speaker, we expect that government will support that so that there will be year-all-round farming. Mr. Speaker, I should be concluding. Now, $1 million. Don't worry. Yes, there's more. Mr. Speaker, I just moved to $1 million per constituency. Mr. Speaker, why then bring me the MPP manifesto and you'll be reminded. Mr. Speaker, in the MPP manifesto of 2016, they said they will spend $1 million each year on each constituency. They didn't say they will build 10 kVIP toilets in each constituency, a dam not costing 200,000 Ghana cedis. And they say that they have spent $1 million per constituency. So, Mr. Speaker, for the purpose of this comment, I'm using the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia exchange rate. And Mr. Speaker, when they come to this house and tell us that the city is doing well against the major currencies, which currency? You inherited a city at 4.2 Ghana cedis to $1. Today is nearly 6 cedis. So for an importer, when you tell him the city is doing well, you are only telling him to go and prepare to service more cost. Simple. So don't come and stand here and tell the Ghanaian public that the city is doing well. Which city? What did you inherit? You inherited 4.2 cities to $1. Today, 5.7. Better and superior managers of the economy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what they need to understand is that with a public debt, if you domesticate it and divide it into two, like US dollars, then you have 24 billion domestic, then you have 25 billion external. It means that you need more money, cities, to service the debt. Simple economics, strict economics. You don't need anybody to tell you that if you are servicing a 1 billion at 4.2 billion, you now need 5.7 billion to service the same 1 billion. So come again. When the Minister for Finance comes here, then he comes quoting the Bible. And Mr. Speaker, that leads me to the politics of a cathedral. Yes, we need a cathedral. But he himself, on an FM station, said that government was going to make $10 million for the cathedral. The Honorable Kum, at his vetting, said $25 million. Now we are told that informal tax, every Ghanaian should pay 100 Ghana cedis to support it. Mr. Speaker, my advice is simply that build the cathedral with good money. Build it with good money. Build the cathedral with good money. That's my advice to government. This country has from religious tolerance, religious coexistence, religious harmony. We need to improve the relationship between the church and the state. But not when you come and tell us on radio that I'll make $10 million available to the building of a church. What is the justification for it legally? But now you can come through the informal process of tax and then get it done. Mr. Speaker, on arrears, today, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, boards have not been constituted. Now the president is appointing chief executives 1 week, 1 CEO. 1 week, 1 CEO. 1 week, 1 board. He must know that the public sector boards and institutions are at the heart of good governance of those institutions. And clearly, it is not an acceptable governance practice for the president to hold 7 months into the administration without board, without chief executive, no district chief executives in place. It's an open room for individual decisions. That is why the boards are helpful. So, Mr. Speaker, now he announces one CEO every week. So we are waiting for the next announcement to see which CEO he is putting somewhere. Mr. Speaker, maybe probably the good news for them. Nana Addo Dankwa's hope and trust, just like the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, is in debt forgiveness. That's their hope. The only way you can redeem this economy is when you enjoy some debt relief or debt forgiveness from the IMF. Thankfully, yesterday, the IMF board met and approved years of 750 billion, which should be shared among many other countries, including Ghana. So, Mr. Speaker, that's the only hope of fiscal space. Revenue, you are not doing well. Borrowing, you have closed the door. You have no opportunity to borrow again, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, Article 11 consultations, as I said, with respect, Mr. Speaker, let me refer you to page 13 of the budget statement, Mr. Speaker. I'm reading review, page 13, paragraph 73, when your government talks about, Mr. Speaker, I'm quoting. As part of Ghana's obligations to the International Monetary Fund's member countries, Ghana hosted an IMF mission led by Carlo, table to get the correct name, following the successful completion of the mission. So the Minister of Finance, I'm challenging him. He should come and table the Article 4 decisions together with what he has presented in the budget statement. There's a discrepancy, Mr. Speaker. What he quotes as his fiscal deficit is less than what the IMF Article 4 quotes. What he quotes as his total debt stock is less than what the IMF is quoting under the same Article 11. So he is not accurate and sincere with the statistics that he shares with this August House. Mr. Speaker, in livelihood empowerment, and then Galamsey, Mr. Speaker, when they say communication, they have expanded. What we need to do, Mr. Speaker, is for the President, again, Article 195, and colleagues, we should pay particular attention to it. Under every other government, there is usually an official advertisement to fill certain public positions. In the last 4 years, not a single advert have appeared in respect of filling vacancies within the public services of Ghana. Yes, it is the right of the President to make a determination, but Mr. Speaker, competitive advertisement, we must see it happen as we've demanded same, for instance, for recruitment into the Ghana Armed Forces and the police service. And Mr. Speaker, rightly, anybody who drove past Elwak in the last 2 weeks, if you saw the young men who queued to get recruited into the Ghana Armed Forces, it will wake you up to deal with the growing unemployment of our country. And Mr. Speaker, our advice again to the Minister is 1D1F. They are given stimulus from NBSSI and they are given loans from Ghana Exim. And Mr. Speaker, I dare add that they are given double money to same entities from the 2 different sources. And I'll leave evidence one of these days to that effect. When you have money and a particular business person have benefited from NBSSI, why won't you give the other money from Ghana Exim to a different Ghanaian entrepreneur, but qualify the same person to benefit double? We do not find that double payment acceptable in the country. Mr. Speaker, industrial parks and special economic zones, page 42, paragraph 239, I read, under the Ghana Economic Transformation Project, the Ministry of Trade and Industry has initiated the process of developing a policy framework, regulatory mechanism, and institutional structure to support the establishment of industrial parks. Good initiative, Mr. Speaker. But what I think is that government must extend water, electricity, and ICT infrastructure to those industrial parks so that the entrepreneur only walks in as a new starter to be able to start business on his own. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm strongly saying that we are not seeing the real impact and effect of planting for food and jobs in ameliorating hardship. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow I may drive through Swami. The bread I used to buy in Swami is now 6 cedis. Swami. Mr. Speaker, it used to be 4 cedis. It's now 6 cedis. And you come here and tell us that the economy is doing well. Even Bread Sellers Association in Kumasi have increased. Have increased it, Mr. Speaker. Because they say the cost of their raw materials have increased. Mr. Speaker, I normally will stop on the road there and buy a loaf of bread, and probably when I get to Techima or Kintampo, I'll buy another one. The Honorable Sohini will remember the other one. Growing up in Tamale, we were not encouraged to buy it. They said, sweet bar. You couldn't pay for that one because it was expensive at the time. So they said if you ate it, you didn't have money to save for purpose of getting a clothes to wear. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude now finally on the road sector. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I asked for 40 minutes and I'll stay within time. Mr. Speaker, get fund. Yes, get fund. Yes. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister for Finance must take immediate and urgent steps to eliminate that unnecessary bureaucracy in the name called Dachi. That is why Get Fund has a board. That is why Get Fund has an administrator. Why should you subject payments of Get Fund to a Dachi? To say what purpose? What has happened to its bureaucratic structures? We passed the law. But Mr. Speaker, what is more worrying? If we don't watch it, and those claiming to be superior managers of the economy, in 2020, Get Fund of a yield of 1.1 billion spent 666 million to service debt. 2019. 2020, Mr. Speaker, Get Fund will spend 850 million to service debt. The combined effect of 2 years of debt service is 1.5 billion, more than what Get Fund itself yields. Yet you say you are superior managers of the economy. The Ghana Exim Bank was established under the NDC administration by John Dramani Mahama, thanks to his Minister of Finance, Tekpe. Better managers of the economy, Mr. Speaker, they have gone to borrow against Ghana Exim. It just doesn't make any economic sense, Mr. Speaker, because Ghana Exim is a specialized bank which was supposed to help with our export financing regime to be able to show up our exports against imports. And Mr. Speaker, is the only dedicated bank which has its primary source of revenue, 0.5% of the CRF value of imports. Why will you borrow against it? It's receivables. Why? Because we are superior managers of the economy and we are asking you done with the money. Ghana Exim alone, Mr. Speaker, has disbursed more than 1.54 billion Ghana cedis. 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. And as I said, in many instances, duplication. The very companies that earned some money from MBSSI are also gaining from it. I'm told that the Ghana Export Promotion Authority has had cause to complain that some money was given for an export facility in New York of up to $800,000 US. Yet the Export Promotion Authority knew nothing about it. Mr. Speaker, Accra Tema Motorway, PPP, we support the policy, because when you cannot raise revenue and you cannot tax, your alternative, as I said, is to pray for debt relief or debt forgiveness. At least there is still some space that you'll be able to look up to PPP. But what we are demanding is value for money for the PPP initiative that government will be embarking on. What has happened to the Palugu project? What's the status, Mr. Speaker? We asked. They came here overnight and said Parliament should give them approval to be able to do that. So, Mr. Speaker, let me now conclude by reminding them, and I come to page 49 again, Mr. Speaker, of the budget statement. Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. If you go through the budget, Mr. Speaker, the hope of the Honorable Minister for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, he says ABFA allocation, and he allocates some 361 million for them. What he must do, he should go back and even come to Parliament and read the second reading of the GIF fund. Mr. Speaker, we dedicated 2.5% VAT into the fund so that it will help with the implementation of government's counterpart contribution to the implementation of public-private initiative. You have come to revise the law and taking away the 2.5% meant for GIF, yet you say you want to use it as a vehicle to anchor public-private participation. How are you going to do it? When you have denied them of the needed material resources that would have provided some avenue for them. So, Mr. Speaker, it is my submission as I conclude that it is wrong constitutionally and legally to use a statement to seek to amend portions of the Appropriation Act as was passed. I've seen the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker, as I've related to page 96 of the mid-year review. He has adjusted more than 5 areas in terms of his numbers. I do not intend, Mr. Speaker, to bore you with the numbers, but at least many of the figures as they appear in appropriation is not the same thing as he has reported. So, Mr. Speaker, it means that the Minister for Finance statement, yes, but can statement just add 1 billion to compensation? I say no. Can statement just add 3 billion to goods and services when we do not know the ministries and departments to which they are committed? So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement and to hope that government will do what is appropriate to work this economy through recovery and to share its opportunities through opportunities. And Mr. Speaker, unlike the NDC Mahama administration, we have not had the benefit of benefiting from a Bank of Ghana support. They have. The Bank of Ghana have financed government over 10 billion. We didn't have that opportunity as a government. So, Mr. Speaker, the Ghanaian people will know whether their suffering have been exacerbated or not. Importers will know whether they are paying more for imports or not. Unemployed Ghanaians will know whether their sufferings have improved or not. I thank you, Mr.
The Honorable Minority Leader has used 44 minutes, 46 seconds. It's now the turn of the Majority Leader, and Majority Leader, you may do so now.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for this great opportunity to conclude the comments on the media review of the budget statement and economic policy of Government of Ghana for the 2021 financial year, which presentation was made in this House on Thursday, July 29th, 2021, by the substantive minister responsible for finance, Mr. Ken Oforiatta. On Friday, 12 March 2021, when the then minister with temporary responsibility for finance at the time appeared in Parliament to present the 2021 budget statement and economic policy, he related to the realities of December 31st, 2016, after 8 years of NDC administration and also 4 years of the MPP administration. The minister in the 2020 budget statement did not mince words in his description of the economy that the MPP inherited. He said the economy that the MPP inherited, Speaker, and I'm quoting him, was in very bad shape, suffocating under a immense weight of debts, arrears, very high cost of living, high youth unemployment, and the worst growth rate since 1994. Unquote. Mr. Speaker, the worst growth rate in 26 years. Mr. Speaker, in 2015 and 2016, there was no COVID, yet our economy took a nosedive. There was no force majeure in 2015, 2016, even 2014, and yet consistently, the growth rate under President John Mahama, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that was the reality. And yet we registered 2.9% growth rate, unprecedented in 36 years. And you have no shame. You have no shame. Mr. Speaker, there was no COVID. There was no force majeure at the time. Mr. Speaker, growth in agriculture in 2016 was declining. We all do know. 2.9% you could register. 2017, under MPP, it grew to 6.1. 2018, 4.8. 2019, 4.6. And 2020, it was projected to grow at 5.1, but for the COVID. The Speaker, crops grew in 2016 at a mere 2.2%. In 2017, under NPP, it grew at 7.2. In 2018, 5.8, 2019, 5.3, and it was projected to grow at 5.4%. The Speaker, cocoa, that we just spoke about, minority leader, it grew in the negative under your care. In 2016, it grew at negative 7.0%. The Speaker, under MPP, it rebounded to 9.2% in 2017. 2018, 3.7, 2019, 5.4, when it grew at negative. There was no COVID at your time. The Speaker, industry, the growth of industry was abysmal under the watch of NDC. 2016, it grew at 4.3% industry. Under NPP 2017, it grew at 15.7%. The Speaker, 2018, 10.6%, 2019, 6.4%, and 2020, the projection was that it would grow at 8.6%. The Speaker, mining inquiry, under your watch, grew at 0.2%. Under MPP, mining inquiry grew at 30.8%. The Speaker, 2018, 23.3%, 2019, 12.6%. It was targeted to grow at 10.1%, 2020, but for COVID. The Speaker, oil and gas, under the NDC, 2016, it grew at a negative. Oil and gas, negative 15.6%. Under NPP, it bounced up strongly to 80.3% in 2017. Mr. Speaker, you agree, sir. Mr. Speaker, then 2018, 2019, 15.1% to grow at 7.3 in 2020, again but for COVID. Electricity, under your watch, 2016, it grew at negative 5.8%. For weekend, it grew at 19.4 in 2017, 20.8, 5.5 in 2018, 6.0 in 2019, 4.8 2020. Water and sewage, again under your watch, 2016, it grew in the negative 11.8%. The Speaker, under NPP, growth escalated to 6.1%. Yes, in 2018, it contracted, negative 3.6, 2019, negative 4.4. But, Mr. Speaker, they were nowhere near the negative 11.8 that we registered in 2016. So who are better managers of this economy? Mr. Speaker, services grew under your watch 2.8. The following year, 3.3. 2018, 2.7. 2019, 7.6. In the average, Mr. Speaker, under the NPP, crops grew at 5.9, 4.9 for cocoa sector. Revenue grew at negative 7. Mr. Speaker, industry 10.3 on the average. Mining and gas 26%. Mining and quarrying 19.2%. Electricity 8.9. When you grew in the negative. Mr. Speaker, so when we talk about better managers of the economy, when Ghanaians see one, they don't see in their shadows, they see in reality. Mr. Speaker, economic growth rates hugely increased from the 2.9 under your watch in 2014 and 2.2 in 2015, which, as I said, was the worst GDP growth in 36 years. 3.4 in 2016, which was the worst in 22 years, to 8.1 in 2017, 6.3 in 2018, 6.5 in 2019. The economy was targeted to grow at 6.8% at the outset of 2020, but for the COVID. Mr. Speaker, average GDP growth rate under Kufuor was 7.0% for the 3 years, whereas the average growth rate under President Mahama for 4 years was 3.9%. Who are better managers of the economy? Who are better managers of the economy? Mr. Speaker, this country, when the dawn of harvest enters the sphere, the people of Ghana are deciding they know how to sift wheat from chaff. Mr. Speaker, inflation. You manage inflation. 2016, it was 15.4%. And the minority leader was saying that we should match minimum wage with inflation. I think that conceptually is good. But under your watch, minimum wage, did it ever cross 12%? Please, be realistic. Be realistic. And yet you want us to benchmark it against inflation. Conceptually is good. But it never happened under the watch of MDC. Not when we were the Minister for, with respect to you, not when we were the Minister for Employment. You couldn't do that. Don't change the goalpost and throw dust into the eyes of the Ghanaian public. Because it was never done during the Mills Mahama era. It was never. Never. Mr. Speaker, the banking sector was on the rise again in 2019, recording by mid-2019 after-tax profits of 1.67 billion or 36% in 2019. The 91-day Treasury bill rate fell steadily from 17% in December 2016 to 14.7%. The cost of borrowing had declined to allow business to expand jobs to be created, and spending to rise again to lubricate the economy. Mr. Speaker, fiscal deficit was contained below 5% GDP for 3 consecutive years. Unprecedented. When you were there. Unprecedented. 2017, 2018, 2019. Mr. Speaker, on external fronts, trade deficit improved from the 1.8 billion that we registered in 2016 to a surplus of $2.6 billion. Who are better managers of this economy? But for the COVID, Ghanaians would have seen a rapid growth of the economy. Mr. Speaker, this trajectory, to all intents and purposes, steady economic growth compared with the wishy-washy record of the NDC is clear to everybody. Mr. Speaker, by 2020, 1.2 million Ghanaian students had access to free senior high school education. The first batch, numbering 362,000, graduated in 2020. Government invested 3.2 billion in implementing this, which translated into 2.2 billion in savings for parents, guardians, and families. Mr. Speaker, this is a record achievement. Mr. Speaker, 1.2 million people have directly benefited from the Planting for Food and Jobs program, and the minority leader will know that. Mr. Speaker, so he was asking, where have we created the jobs? 1.2 million only in Planting for Food and Jobs. Mr. Speaker, 97,373 graduates had the opportunity under NACO to prepare themselves for future jobs. 83,000 citizens have been recruited under the forest plantation programs in reforestation of our 6.5 million hectares of forest cover, which have been decimated. The Speaker, additional 138,026 Ghanaian citizens have been recruited under various programs to support public sector delivery. 55,000 nurses who have completed their training but who were left to rot in their respective homes under the watch of the NDC were employed. Mr. Speaker, so you're asking, where are the job opportunities? Open your eyes. You see where they are. Mr. Speaker, over 1,000 sanitary facilities were at various stages of completion at the beginning of 2020, and 49,000 trainee nurses have been paid 468 million in allowances. When you said you couldn't do that. Mr. Speaker, 48,000 trainee teachers had at the beginning of 2020 been paid 532 million in allowances, something you said you couldn't afford. Mr. Speaker, 181 companies at the beginning of 2020 have benefited under the 1D1F. 19,500 startup businesses have received training support under the government entrepreneurship program. 80 businesses, incubation hubs, have been set up across the country to build capacity of entrepreneurs. 20,000 students have, by the beginning of 2020, been trained under Student Entrepreneurship Initiative. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the allocation of the city equivalent of 1 million cities to each constituency, IPEP have delivered the following: 307 ambulances to each constituency, 200 dams have been completed, and 560 additional dams were under construction at the beginning of 2020. 50 prefabricated grain warehouses have been constructed by the end of 2019 to reduce post-harvest losses. Mr. Speaker, clearly, the country was on course for even greater achievement in 2020, predicated on: 1, expanded domestic revenue mobilization, business regulatory reforms, intensified drive for foreign direct investments, enhanced financial support to local enterprises, digitalization, accelerated infrastructure development, especially roads, hospitals, and educational facilities, and science and technology. Then entered the COVID-19 corona pandemic. Mr. Speaker, it must be clear to all objective and neutral watchers that the management of the economy under Akufo-Addo was in capable hands until COVID coronavirus pandemic struck. The well-structured program got choked by the virus, and government had to review the plan of action that had been fashioned to take the country to the next level of accelerated economic development, which the minister had themed consolidated the gains for growth, jobs and prosperity for all. For in sharp contrast to the NDC regime under President Mahama, under President Akufo-Addo, the economy was steadily growing, as I've alluded to. Industry has started revving up again, and Ghana and Ghanaians were clearly on the road to prosperity. Mr. Speaker, the effect of the pandemic, as the minority leader himself acknowledged, has been swift and extremely devastating on the people of the world. Businesses and the world economy, with 2.2 billion jobs having been lost. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance informed that the pandemic is more than a health crisis. Restrictions were imposed on the movement of people to contain the spread, and these restrictions disrupted households and businesses, with very many job losses and reduced incomes for many people, especially those in the private and informal sectors. Mr. Speaker, this is what translated into the recession that we suffered as a country. Hotels and hospitality industry are literally on their knees. As I said last year, Kempiski, which was the flagship hotel in this country, which employed 360 people, had, the Speaker, to send 300 of the 360 home. Only a skeletal staff of 60 remained. What do you expect? Many of the hotels that we know closed down, and we didn't expect that to translate into the economy. Certainly, if you didn't do that, then clearly you don't understand economics. Mr. Speaker, the ECOWAS region's average annual GDP growth rate in 2020 was negative 2.5. Ghana did not register a sub-zero growth rate. Ghana kept its head above water. Mr. Speaker, only 4 countries in the sub-region did better as far as GDP growth rate is concerned than Ghana. Nigeria registered negative 4.3% GDP, Liberia negative 3.0%, Sierra Leone negative 3.1%, Gambia negative 1.8%, Cape Verde negative 6.8%, Togo flattened out 0.0%, Mali negative 2.0%, Guinea-Bissau negative 2.9%, Burkina Faso negative 2.0%, and Senegal negative 0.7%. The countries that did better than Ghana are La Côte d'Ivoire, which registered 1.8%, Guinea 1.4%, Benin 2.0%, and Niger 0.5%. The Speaker, is instructive to state that none of the countries that did better than Ghana did what Ghana did to mitigate the effect of the virus on the economy and on the citizens. Mr. Speaker, none of them gave out hot meals to the people, or at least some of them, uncooked food, providing free water and electricity. None of them did that. Providing business support as Ghana did. None of them did that. Mr. Speaker, so people should appreciate what the government of this country did to save life. Mr. Speaker, it is important to say that all these people, all these countries were churning out impressive GDP growth rates before COVID struck. Indeed, Ghana's economy grew by 6.5%, as I said, in 2019. Côte d'Ivoire grew by 6.5%, Senegal grew by 5.3%, Guinea 5.6%, Burkina Faso 5.7%, Benin 6.9%, Guinea-Bissau 4.5%, Mali 5.1%, Niger 5.9%, Togo 5.3%, Cape Verde 5.7%, Gambia 6.1%, Sierra Leone 5.4%, Nigeria 2.2%. So Ghana was on a good and smooth trajectory until COVID-19 struck. So for my colleague, the honorable member to say that, oh, Ghana's economy collapsed under the watch of MPP. Clearly, You are not placing it in the context. You are oblivious to the world situation. And that cannot be good. That cannot be helpful. You couldn't have been oblivious. You knew what was happening. You must put it in the context. If you are saying that we could have done better, that's another argument altogether. That's another argument altogether. But you said that our economic management was shambolic. Clearly, you were not truthful to the facts. Mr. Speaker, the John Mahama administration, when there was no COVID, as I said, in 2014, grew the economy by just 2.9%. In 2015, 2.2%, 2016, 3.4%. This tells in vivid terms the extent of incompetence. But Mr. Speaker, now the average growth in the sub-region, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, was 5.2%. So when you registered 2.9, 2.2, 3.4 under your watch, you went beneath the radar. And that's why we tell you that where economic management is characterized by sheer incompetence. That's why we tell you that. Mr. Speaker, in the midst of the COVID-19, Ghana was able to achieve, in the midst of the COVID-19, Ghana was still able to achieve 4 out of the 6 ECOWAS convergence criteria under the Mills Mahama administration. The criteria were 10. It was only in 1 year that we attained 3 out of 10. In a particular year, you attained only 1. In fact, in 3 years out of the 8, you attained only 1. That's a mark of economic competence. Incompetence galore. Mr. Speaker, until the COVID-19 struck, this economy was expanding under Akufo-Addo annually between 16 and 17%. Mr. Speaker, what it meant was that under such an environment, if you're able to grow your economy between 16 and 17%, then your receivables, your revenue certainly would expand. Then you will also increase your expenditure. In 2020, the revenues contracted, no thanks to COVID, but expenditures escalated. So the denominator shrunk, the numerator expanded. That is the reason why you have a ballooning of the debt stock. Mr. Speaker, you should understand this. This is basic economics. This is basic economics. Mr. Speaker, so this is not contrivance. This is not propaganda. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, so this is the reason why the debt to GDP has increased. Notwithstanding, it is important to explain that, as the minister said, the debt stock now standing at 334.56 billion. The Speaker, which represents 77.1% of GDP, includes the financial and energy sector bailouts. Excluding the financial sector bailout alone, the debt to GDP falls to 72.9%. The Speaker, and that is something that we have to do to strengthen and reposition the banking sector. The Speaker, the good news is that the country is making steady progress in the macroeconomic targets that we set for 2021 budget. Overall GDP, we targeted to grow at 5%, end-year inflation at 8%, non-oil real GDP growth at 6.7%, fiscal deficit at 9.5% of GDP, primary deficit of 1.3% of GDP, gross international reserves of no less than 4 months. The Speaker, at the end of the first quarter, GDP registered 3.1%, non-oil GDP registered 4.6% growth, agriculture 4.3%, service 4.0%, industry 1.3%. We are climbing up by all accounts. The Speaker, inflation declined further to 7.5 from 10.9 in December 2020. Interest rates are generally declining. The Speaker, at the end of June 2021, the country's gross international reserves had grown astronomically to 11.026 billion, in fact 0.27 billion from the 2020 December position of $8.624 billion. This provides us not with a targeted 4 months cover, but 5 months of import cover. Mr. Speaker, this 11 billion in gross international reserves is unprecedented. It's unprecedented in the history of this country. 11 billion. You are dazed. It's not 11. It's not 9. $11 billion of import cover. Mr. Speaker, government is not shying away from responsibility of ensuring that the economy is repositioned. The economy is repositioned in full recognition of COVID-19, in full recognition of the fact that COVID-19 is here to stay, and hence efforts must be made in the context to reinvigorate the economy. The fiscal measures contained in the 2021 budget, the mid-year review, and the Ghana COVID-19 alleviation and revitalization of enterprises support, acronymed Ghana Cares, or the Obatampa program, the Speaker, constitute the bedrock for repositioning this country. The Minister from paragraph 151 through 179 of the mid-year review gave a vivid description of what the phase 1 and phase 2 of the CARES program entail and the status of implementation. The protection of livelihoods, the revitalization and transformation of the economy, including the private sector in the areas of fast-track industrialization, import substitution, digitalization, export expansion, and creation of sustainable jobs, especially for the youths, are all contained in the mid-year review. So we can refer us to the paragraphs that I've quoted, in particular paragraph 152. The Minister also updated the country on the status of some selected government interventions. 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Trade and Industry was in this house to inform us about the status of the One District, One Factory initiative. The Finance Minister came to confirm that a total number of 1D, 1F projects in operation as of now is 104. The number of industries under construction at the end of June 2021 are 150. This brings the total number of 1D, 1F projects at various levels of implementation to 278. Mr. Speaker, these companies have created a total of 150,975 direct and indirect jobs. And it's expected that when the 1D, 1F projects under construction are completed, a total number of 282,792 jobs will be created. We want to know where the jobs are. These are the places where the jobs are being created. Honorable Minority Leader, because we wanted to know. And indeed, when the Minister for Trade and Industries came the other day, he gave us a breakdown, a regional breakdown of where the factories are. I remember the Chief Whip was saying that the name is One District, One Factory. So we should go further downstream to give us the names of the districts where they are situated. So Speaker, that's a legitimate request. But you cannot pretend that these factories are, some of these factories, 104, are functional. Mr. Speaker, on strategic anchor industries, the Minister informed that Toyota Chusho in June 2021 commissioned an assembly plant in Ghana for Toyota and Suzuki. In addition, Kantanka Automobile and Volkswagen Ghana, there are 3 auto assembly industries in the country. Nissan and Kia have initiated the processes to establish 2 more assembly plants to bring the number to 5 by the end of 2021. An economy, Mr. Speaker, that is in tatters, an economy that is being mismanaged certainly will not attract such world-renowned auto manufacturers. That is the simple truth that we must acknowledge. Oh, maybe dear Moasia, in Yai let's be up. Tell Abi will explain to us. You translate that to us. The Honorable Tel Abi will translate that to us. Our faith in him, his proficiency in tree. Mr. Speaker, the combined effect of the planting for food and jobs flagship program, including the livestock development module, that is a rally for food and jobs.
You don't run away from translating what you said in different language. By the rules, you have to translate it.
Literally translates. If you have nothing useful to offer your in-laws, you don't turn round to pilfer them. Mr. Speaker, as I said, the combined effect of planting for food and jobs flagship program, including the livestock development module, that is a rally for food and jobs, the greenhouse village module, the agricultural mechanization module, plant protection and regulation module, and the one district, one warehouse scheme, not only assure of food security, but Mr. Speaker, they provide platforms for sustainable industrialization, job creation, import substitution, export diversification, and, above all, the stability for the local currency. Mr. Speaker, the President has declared 2021 as the second year of ROAS. The success of economic revitalization programs is hugely dependent on road infrastructure. President Kufuor expanded the road network of this country from 39,000 to 69,000. Mr. Speaker, the Mills Mahama administration increased the network from 69,000 to 73,000 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, under Kufuor, the road network in 4 years increased from 73,000 to 78,000 kilometers, an increase of 5,000. Truth be told, that many of the new roads that came out were not completed. We must admit to that. And Speaker, government must be urged to complete these roads. The Speaker, the number of questions filed in the House directed at the Minister of Roads every week, indeed every Friday, attest to the fact that we need to up our game in road construction. The Speaker, Ghana indeed is bouncing back, and bouncing back in a very profound manner. We must encourage the government not to relent, but to do more. The Speaker, a nation that is showing such promise would certainly attract envy and enemies. And that is why I'm happy that the Minister has given some account on the urgent need to read through the security forces and intelligence agencies. This House is privy to potential threats to the country and must join ranks to find resources, Mr. Speaker, to reposition our security forces and intelligence operatives to protect the unity, stability, and indeed integrity of this country. The Speaker, in conclusion, let me state unequivocally that the future of this country is bright. It is bright in the hands of MPP. It dims and plunges into darkness, indeed doom so under the NDC. Mr. Speaker, governance is not propaganda. Governance is based on facts and figures. The facts and figures speak for themselves. Ghanaians, as I said at the very outset, are discerning. And when harvest time comes, they know how to sift wheat from chaff. Mr. Speaker, God bless our homeland Ghana and make the people bold and strong and thrive in a very resilient economy that only the MPP offers. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you once again.
Honorable members, the House has had its say after listening to the Minister for Finance. As I indicated in the morning, we'll be taking a suspension to prepare to receive His Excellency the President of Angola. And so with much ado, I should say without much ado, I want to suspend the House for the few minutes. We are to be back seated before 2 p.m. We have a few minutes to do so. And so I will suspend proceedings for the few minutes. I have to follow the course of our program because I will have to receive His Excellency the President in the Speaker's lobby. My duty is to suspend the House. If the members decide to stay on the floor, that is their decision, not that of the Speaker. And so the House is accordingly suspended, at least for the next 15 minutes. The House is suspended. Honorable members, order. Honorable members, you would recall that the Honorable Majority Leader and Chairperson of the Business Committee, in presenting the business for this week last Friday, did indicate that the House will receive His Excellency Joe Manuel Goncalves Lorenzo, President of the Republic of Angola, to address the House today, 3rd August 2021. Honorable members, His Excellency, the President of Angola, and his entourage are here with us. Honorable members, His Excellency the President, as I indicated, is here with his delegation, and I shall proceed with your kind permission to recognize their presence in this August chamber. Your Excellency, you are most welcome. And even though he is in this country with his lovely, beautiful wife, the wife is not here in the chamber. But we have a very strong delegation with him here. We have His Excellency Tete Antonia, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, is here. His Excellency Joe Ernesto dos Santos, Minister of National Defense and Motherland Veronis. We also have His Excellency Diamantino Pedro Azevedo, Minister of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas. I'm happy your honorable members recognize the power of that position. We have His Excellency Edeltrudes Gaspar da Costa, Minister and Director of the Republic's Office of the President. We have His Excellency Victor Santos Fernandez, Minister of Industry and Trade. We have His Excellency Victor Manuel Rita Lima, Secretary for Diplomatic Republic Affairs and International Cooperation of the President. We have His Excellency Luis Fernando, Secretary for Communication Affairs, Institutional and Press of the President of the Republic. We have His Excellency Miguel Domingos Dembe, Director of Africa, Middle East and Regional Organizations. We have His Excellency Antonio Da Silva, President of the Private Investment Agency and Promotion of Angola Exports. We have His Excellency Augusto Da Silva Cunha, outgoing Ambassador of Angola to Ghana. And we have Mr. Joel Kuvuna Kumbu, Deputy Ambassador of the Embassy of Angola in Ghana. We have Joe Baradas Bartraza, Counselor of the Embassy of Angola in Ghana. We have Rio Livramento, Business Attaché of the Embassy of Angola in Ghana. And we have His Excellency Jorge Francisco Silveira, Assistant Director of the President's Ceremonial of the Republic of Angola. We also have His Excellency Fernando Pativa, Member of the Angolan Parliament, your colleague, Honorable Member of Parliament. And we have Mr. Stelvio Richard Ferrara, who is a delegate. And the last but not the least, we have Ambassador Antonio de Cruz, Legal Director of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Distinguished delegation, on behalf of the Parliament of Ghana and on my part, I warmly welcome you to this august house. You are most welcome. Honorable members, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic of Angola to deliver his address to this august house. Mr. President, you may now proceed to the podium to deliver your address. You may do so now.
Excelência, Sr. Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagdin, Presidente do Parlamento da República do Ghana, honoráveis deputados, ilustres convidados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. Para mim, uma grande honra aceitar o convite que me foi formulado para me dirigir aos senhores deputados nesta casa, sede do Poder Legislativo e verdadeiro baluarte da democracia na República do Ghana. Expresso a minha gratidão por este gesto fraterno que ilustra as boas relações existentes entre os nossos dois países e aproveito esta tribuna para reiterar as minhas cordiais saudações ao povo do Ghana, aqui representado por vossas excelências. Acedi com dupla satisfação a este convite, porque sou portador, na minha qualidade de chefe de Estado, de uma mensagem de amizade e de solidariedade do povo angolano para o povo irmão do Ghana, com o qual temos laços históricos de amizade e de cooperação que nos unem desde o início da nossa luta pela independência nacional. Por ter sido parlamentar durante quase 3 décadas em diferentes funções no Parlamento angolano, Tenho uma profunda compreensão do importante papel que os senhores deputados desempenham como garantes dos interesses do povo e da democracia ganense. Sinto um enorme orgulho em estar aqui e acredito que em diversos fóruns parlamentares realizados no nosso continente e no mundo me terei cruzado muito provavelmente com alguns de vós. Excelência, senhores deputados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, o vosso país é um exemplo inequívoco de maturidade democrática e de civismo político, cultivados ao longo de décadas, em que o vosso povo demonstrou, com a dignidade que lhe é característica, no processo de resgate da soberania e independência, uma capacidade ímpar para conduzir os seus destinos num contexto eterno de ampla harmonia nacional. As conquistas no plano democrático alcançadas pelo Ghana são também fruto do empenho e do patriotismo de figuras importantes da vossa nação, de que destaco Kwame Nkrumah, que se tornou célebre em África e no mundo pela sua profunda dedicação à causa, sua visão pan-africanista, de que derivam hoje muitas das ideias que orientam o nosso continente no caminho que percorre para se afirmar como um espaço respeitável no nosso planeta. Considero oportuno servir-me deste momento para fazer uma breve incursão pela história da democracia angolana, que começou a ser edificada em 1992, com a realização das primeiras eleições gerais no país, após uma guerra de várias décadas que fraturou profundamente a sociedade angolana. Naquele contexto difícil e de muitas ingerências externas, a primeira festa da democracia angolana seguiu-se um período frustrante para todos os angolanos, que tiveram que enfrentar o recomeço do conflito armado, desencadeado por quem não estava preparado a aceitar os resultados que a democracia havia legitimado nas urnas. Esses fatos históricos, dramáticos, conduziram à suspensão dos ciclos eleitorais regulares, por não ter havido objetivamente condições para que fossem realizados outros pleitos eleitorais nos prazos constitucionalmente estabelecidos. Nesse período conturbado da nossa história, tentou-se ensaiar em Angola um modelo de solução do conflito por via da acomodação nos órgãos do Poder Legislativo e no Poder Executivo, de representantes da organização política que hostilizava militarmente o país e a favor da qual se procurava conferir um estatuto de paridade com o governo, num quadro em que funcionavam mecanismos de verificação internacional do processo de paz. Tudo isto se revelou ineficaz e incapaz de ajudar a estruturar uma solução definitiva para o grave problema que o país enfrentava na altura. Só foi possível chegarmos à paz e estabilidade que prevalece em Angola há quase 2 décadas, por via do diálogo corajoso e genuíno entre os irmãos desavindos do país, facto revelador da inoperância de outras soluções geralmente orquestradas a partir do exterior do nosso continente. Excelência, Senhor Presidente, honoráveis deputados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, temos hoje uma democracia pujante que cumpre regularmente os seus ciclos de realização de eleições e que permite que, ao nível da nossa Assembleia Nacional, se abordem os problemas e as preocupações fundamentais do país num ambiente salutar e de grande harmonia. No centro do debate político atual em Angola, coloca-se a abordagem da revisão pontual da Constituição, com vista ao aprofundamento da democracia, de modo a torná-la muito mais participativa e inclusiva. Excelência, Sr. Presidente, honoráveis deputados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, no decurso desta visita ao Ghana, estou animado do desejo de dar um passo mais no sentido do aprofundamento das relações bilaterais, de modo a que consigamos complementar os resultados alcançados com a visita realizada por Sua Excelência Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo em agosto de 2019, durante a qual definimos um quadro em cujo âmbito projetamos um conjunto de iniciativas e ações tendentes a reforçar o intercâmbio entre os nossos países. Na realidade, os nossos dois países dispõem de enormes recursos e de um enorme potencial para que entre ambos se explore muito mais as áreas de cooperação em que somos mais fortes. Estou convicto de que podemos atingir os fins a que fiz referência, otimizando a utilização dos importantes mecanismos de que a África dispõe para potenciar os seus recursos e obter resultados tangíveis no quadro
in the framework of the African continent that your country proudly hosts its seat in order to promote the conduction of investment and businesses development. In this visit to Ghana, we have identified yesterday the areas where cooperation activities, namely in the sector of oil and gas. Mutually advantageous direct impact.
Agradeço mais uma vez a oportunidade que me foi dada de falar perante tão ilustro figura. Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente.
Mr. President, on behalf of the House and on my part, I sincerely thank you for such a rich address. I assure you the interpretation was excellent. To the House, I've really received the full import of your address. members, it's proper I give the opportunity to your leaders to be heard. And so I shall invite the Honorable Minority Leader to make some remarks. Honorable Leader, it's your turn now.
Mr. Speaker, I should thank you for the opportunity to speak, and also thank you for the kind courtesy of hosting President João Manuel Lorenzo in this August House of Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, as we heard him, it's only democracies that have parliaments. Countries can have governments. He has shared with us his trust to lead the Angolan people, and he has indicated to us we have shared values. And our shared values, Mr. Speaker, as we heard him, 1992, they started their democracy journey arising out of a war. But in Ghana, we started our journey to the Fourth Republic arising out of military interventions, a common value we share. They celebrate 2 decades of democracy. We now celebrate 2.5 decades of democracy. Mr. Speaker, it's refreshing to hear from him. What warms my heart as I read his profile is his commitment to fight corruption, not to lip service the fight of corruption. And indeed, to his credit, he has gotten back some loot for the benefit of the Angolan state and its people from persons who desire to exploit public office for their personal benefit and gain. Mr. Speaker, as you are speaking, I look up to our foreign minister who is here, and probably she will jealously do what she's already doing. The credo of our foreign policy must be one where partisanship ends at the water's edge. I should think that in the pursuit of our foreign policy, President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has not departed significantly. And Mr. Speaker, understandably, you are hosting President Manuel as a reciprocal fraternal gesture. They were kind enough to host President Nana Addo when he visited Angola. We only can look up to a stronger bond, bilateral bond between Ghana and Angola. And Mr. Speaker, in particular, between the Parliament of Angola and the Parliament of Ghana. We would want to learn from them as they may also want to learn from us. I haven't read what the President have done so far, but I understand that Namibia conferred its highest honor on President João Manuel Lorenzo. Probably our President can consider same, and he has the support of the country behind him. I thank you, Mr.
Honorable members, I shall now invite the Honorable Majority Leader to make his remarks.
Speaker, on behalf of the House and on my own part, I wish to extend a very warm welcome to Your Excellency João Manuel Gonçalves Lorenzo, President of the Republic of Angola, on your historic visit to Ghana upon the invitation of His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, who was also in Angola in August 2019 for a 2-day official visit. We are indeed pleased to have Your Excellency visit us at the instance of Right Honorable Speaker Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbo. Ghana and Angola enjoy long-standing historical, cultural, and economic relations which have contributed appreciably to the strengthening of political goodwill between the two countries. Ghana was among the first countries to accord recognition to the Republic of Angola in December 1975 after Angola attained independence from Portugal. Subsequently, in 1976, Ghana established a diplomatic mission in Rwanda and appointed its first ambassador to that country. Following the end of the Civil War in 2002 and the return to peace and stability, Angola in 2005 also established a diplomatic mission in Accra. Over the years, bilateral relations between Ghana and Angola have been characterized by the exchange of visits by a number of senior government officials from both countries. This bilateral relation between Ghana and Angola presents the opportunity to further strengthen the economic ties that exist between the two countries and explore other possible areas of cooperation for the mutual benefit of the peoples of the two countries. The issue of good governance as a critical factor to the achievement of accelerated and sustainable economic growth and development has been the global policy agenda for some time now. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore not out of place to note that African governments have, in recent times, also initiated a number of measures in their quest to promote good governance on the continent. However, Africa continues to face many challenges, including the inability to, one, structurally transform its economies to create the needed jobs for the teeming unemployed youth. Two, maintain sustainable and efficient public spending. Three, combat corruption and reduce inequality. Four, prevent and manage conflicts. And five, increase and deepen transparency in electoral processes and increase the participation of women in politics. These concerns are by no means exhaustive. Obviously, citizens are becoming somewhat dissatisfied with many aspects of governance and are therefore eager to take active part in the day-to-day governance of the country. They want to play a more active role in shaping, delivering, and monitoring government policy. These developments require an introspection of governance approach in Africa. How do we provide an environment that adequately responds to the needs and aspirations of our citizenry? How do we entrench the transparency and accountability for our citizenry? We in the legislative work assiduously within our mandate to ensure good governance and development of the citizens. That this can be achieved. The Parliament of Ghana and the National Assembly work closely together. Fortunately, in Ghana, parliamentary friendship associations with sister parliaments in Africa and beyond. Force parliamentarians the opportunity to engage with their counterpart government officials and the citizens of other countries and thereby deepen international cooperation and relations. I'm confident that our two nations will continue to engage and deepen the political and economic cooperation. We will be able to fashion out common aspirations that will propel our countries towards the path of growth and sustainable development for the generation of today and tomorrow. Once again, Your Excellency, you are welcome to Ghana, and we wish you a pleasant stay. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, let me also take the opportunity to make a few remarks in honor of the President of Angola. Your Excellency, once again, it is my honor and prime privilege to personally welcome you to this August chamber. I am pleased at this stage to personally express sincere gratitude to you on behalf of the entire House and on my part for your words of wisdom, which will undoubtedly be food for thought for us in Ghana. His commitment and dedication in tackling corruption head on in your country, your dedication in reducing economic graft, your resilience at national reconstruction, and your laudable efforts at streamlining and simplifying administrative systems, practices, and procedures of the public sector, all towards a larger anti-corruption goal, resonate in your message. It underscores the importance of building stronger institutions for good governance, and it is a loud call for all institutions all over the world to wake up and discharge their mandates for the benefit of both the current and future generations. Your Excellency, the huge savings of over $5 billion United States dollars that your administration has made a little over 2 years ago for your great country by retrieving the ill-gotten wealth of corrupt individuals is remarkable and has really proved that tackling corruption is about vigorously pursuing corrupt officials and I repeat it. It is about vigorously pursuing and sealing economic loopholes in the administration of the nation's resources. Such outcomes represent yet another major source of finance for the running of every economy. The quality of life arising out of the value for money it engenders goes a long way to ensuring sustainable development. We in the Parliament of Ghana are encouraged by this feat, and we are encouraged to continue with the pursuit of our watchdog role in all areas, to give constructive criticism to government and its agencies, and to call on them to account to the people of Ghana. Your Excellency, in conclusion, it is my conviction that our respective countries remain committed to deeper democratic ideals and working in furtherance of the prosperity of our dear countrymen and women. I want to take this opportunity once again to thank Your Excellency for coming and for sharing with us your profound words of wisdom. May you enjoy the rest of your stay in our beautiful country, and I'm sure you enjoy our Ghanaian hospitality. We thank you so much for coming. Honorable members, we shall now suspend sitting of the House just briefly to enable me, together with the leadership, to conduct His Excellency the President report of Anguilla out of the chamber. Honorable members, welcome back from the suspension. I want to hear from the leaders as to any indication as to how we proceed with business. Yes, Majority Leader.
Speaker, I believe we've done considerable work today, and even though the Minister responsible for transport is here with us, ready to answer the questions that have been filed, I want to plead that we take an adjournment until Thursday at 10 in the forenoon sharp to deal with the questions. And then I recognize that Thursday is Cabinet Day, it's Cabinet meeting day. But if we sit at 10 and dedicate 1 hour to the questions, it should be possible for us to deal with the questions. And indeed, I could even give an indication to the President to reschedule the start point of the Cabinet meeting to 12. In other words, clear the questions before Cabinet meeting starts. So, Speaker, the Minority Leader himself has a question, but I believe you agree with this request that we adjourn sitting until Thursday next at 10 in the forenoon. Thank you.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I would support the motion for adjournment on the understanding that the Minister for Agriculture and Transport will be back here on Thursday to respond to those questions. With that understanding, Mr. Speaker, I have no hesitation accepting that you adjourn the House to Thursday at 10 in the forenoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the guidance from leadership is for the House to adjourn till Thursday, 10 a.m. prompt, for the Minister for Transport to respond to the questions on the order paper before proceeding to a Cabinet meeting. 10 a.m. prompt. You all know tomorrow is a public holiday, and that is why we are adjourning to Thursday. And so the motion has been moved. If it's your pleasure, I put the question. And the question is that,
Mr. Speaker, just to sound that on the order paper for today, if you look at the provisional order paper, there are many questions, many of them to the Minister responsible for Education, Interior Minister, and yes, so Interior and Education for Thursday. So we'll combine all of them, and if we need to really to increase the time span, it will be so done to accommodate all the ministers.
well, honorable members, you know we are due to adjourn Senate Day on Friday. We still have a lot of work to do. And so on Thursday and Friday, we may have to sit extra hours. And with that understanding, I put the question. Those in favor of the motion for adjournment of the House, say yes. I don't say you should say aye. I said you should say yes. But you are used to aye, so you said aye. Those against say no. So all right. I put the question again. Those against say nay. Those for say aye. Definitely the ayes have it. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The House is accordingly adjourned to Thursday at 10 o'clock in the forenoon, and we mean 10 a.m. sharp. The House is adjourned.